Cool. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode from Debates. I am your host, Dibo. And shoo, you already see the title of the video. We are going to discuss the NBA trade deadline. I know it's a little bit late for you guys, but I got some time now to talk about it. And yeah, once again, it's going to be a trade deadline special and we are going to go through the winners and losers of this year's trade deadline. And let me just say this: I have witnessed over, dang, we're on 15 years of me watching the NBA. That's crazy. But in my 15 years of following the NBA, I have never seen a trade deadline this insane. I know there have been some crazy ones in the past. 2023 when KD got traded to the Suns. Kyrie got traded to Dallas. 2018, the whole the GM saga. The Cavs whole team got traded in one deadline. It was so crazy witnessing that. Like you go on Instagram, I was seeing on Instagram, and like every single minute, well, every single hour, it felt like each Cavs player got traded away. It was insane to look back on. But with this year, it was just incredible to win this. Just the unpredictability of it all was just crazy. And throughout the entire week, plus even more, it was just banger after banger after banger. And you know, with the new CBA being implemented, obviously having the first and second apron, teams having to adjust and deal with those restrictions. People wouldn't think that we get a trade deadline this insane like this year's, but we got it. And me being a basketball fan, we are super thankful for it. Very, very thankful. But let's get on to it. Again, very straightforward. We're going to go through the winners and losers, my main winners and losers. Gonna start off with the winners first. If you guys are still watching this video, please drop a like, drop a comment too, subscribe to the YouTube channel, also our TikTok and Instagram, both with the handles at Lunchroom Debates. That'd be greatly appreciated. And yeah, man, let's get into it. So the first winner I have on here, I'm just gonna say it's the commissioner, Adam Silver. You know, hey man, the Super Bowl week, Chiefs Eagles rematch. You know, that's gonna be a good game most likely. My Chiefs are gonna try to get the first 3P in NFL history, but they're out of this entire week except Thursday's awards being given out plus the Hall of Fame nominees. There wasn't a lot of Super Bowl talk. Wasn't a lot of football talk in general. The whole entire week was just NBA, NBA, NBA. Oh, Luca, AD trade, Jimmy Butler being traded, just the stuff like that. And for Adam Silver, I know the NBA throughout this entire year has gotten uh, a ton of criticism over their low ratings. The NFL tried to take over Christmas when Christmas has been the NBA's top day for years, decades now, and for Adam Silver to take Goodell's chain away to have the NBA talked about this much, having a bunch of star players being shipped out, a top five player Luka Doncic being shipped out to the most marketable team in basketball in the Lakers. Hey man, it was a huge success for him. So salute to him. I don't know how he did it, but hey man, that was a masterclass. But let's get into the actual teams. And for the first team, I'm going to start off with my winners is the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic came alone. I know they got rid of. I wouldn't say got rid of. I know they traded away AD and Max Christie, two important players in the rotation, especially AD in that trade. But again, like I said before, to get a superstar player in Luca, where you only had to give up your 29 first, which you have Luca now, that could potentially not even really matter in the grand scheme of things. To get a superstar in LA, to get a guy that can take the mantle in the city if Luka commits long term after LeBron retires. It's incredible. It's a stroke of genius from Rob Pelinka for him to do that. And not only did they get Luka in the trade deadline, they also got Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets. That the Lakers gave up their 30, their 31 their 2031 first round pick along with Dalton Connect, the rookie from this year. So basically two firsts in a deal for Mark Williams. I really like Mark Williams. I've liked Mark Williams since he got drafted out of Duke. His injury history is a concern, along with defensively. When you look at the tape, it's not as great as you like to hope. But with Mark Williams, you get a corner star piece at the five spot, which obviously after AD left, they had to fill a massive hole in that position. So to get Mark Williams can rebound, has potential as a rim protector, lob threat too for Luca. We know how Luca loves his lob threats with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford last year with the Mavericks. It was a great move from Rob Pelinka once again, and Mark Williams, his deal. Well, he's on the last year of his rookie deal, if I'm correct, next year, and he will also be restricted free agent. So if all works out well, if Mark Williams can remain healthy, they can sign him long term, relatively on the cheap. Which for a team trying to I'd say rebuild at the same time, but also win now. Again, getting a very young and talented center, while also having the potential to sign him long term on a very team friendly deal. It's always a great thing for when it comes to roster building. So, so salute to Lakers. They're big winners in this deadline once again. Now, when it comes down to them being full contenders throughout the remainder of the season, I would say they'd be top five in the West right now. Dang, can't even cut that out. Sorry, excuse me. They're not being OKC. I don't see them being OKC, even though OKC didn't make any moves in this deadline. I could see them potentially beating Houston or Memphis if that came down to it in a playoff scenario. Denver, the Nuggets, defensively having to go up against Jokic, especially without ID, that's going to be a huge mountain to climb. I would not put down anybody. But when it comes down to it, having a potential starting lineup of Luca at the one, Reeves, Austin Reeves at the two, Rui Hachimura at the three, LeBron at the four, Mark Williams at the five, and then off the bench, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt as your defensive wings slash forwards. I like it. I really do. With their high end talent and them potentially having a very stacked offense, I think offensively the Lakers have been very solid offensively the entire year with JJ Redick as the first year head coach. But you add in Luca alongside LeBron and Austin Reeves as the third option. I know people are questioning the fit with LeBron and Luca, but I think with them being so cerebral, um, having excellent basketball minds, high IQ players, I think that's gonna all work out. And with this team, they're gonna be lining it up every night. We saw heck, we saw glimpses of that in their last two primetime games versus the Clippers and the Warriors. They were phenomenal. They shot the lights out in both those games. So add Luka to that team, the ceiling is the roof for them offensively. It really is. But when it comes down to it, top five teams in the Western Conference right now. Before we move to the next team, OKC at one. I'd have to put Denver at two because they have the experience in Jokic, and then Lakers three and four and five. You can switch between Memphis and Houston. I'm leaning towards Houston at that fourth spot. You can make an argument for Memphis to be at the fourth spot, but those two can be changed within each other. So those are my five teams in the West currently. But moving on, we are going to talk about an Eastern Conference team, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they made one huge move at the deadline. Bit of a shock, to be completely honest. They got DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Karis LeVert and Bogdan Bogdanovich too. Those were the main players in the deal. For Cleveland, a major weakness for this team this year, and really since Mitchell has landed in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, was their wing depth. Them having the wings to go up against the great teams in the East, like a Boston, even like a New York too as well. And for them to get DeAndre Hunter, who is currently having a career year, career high in points per game with 19, shooting near a 40% clip from three this season in Cleveland, having a great 3-point shooting threat. DeAndre Hunter, although he's generally labeled as a 3 and D wing, the defense is kind of disappointing at times. He's very mistake prone, especially off ball. But for Cleveland, you bring in a very solid and dependable wing offensively when it comes to catch and shoot opportunities. Uh, Being able to hit down shots when Mitchell and Darius Garland are playmaking as well, increasing their shooting potential from outside. It was a great move for them to pick up a guy like DeAndre Hunter. Now in the Eastern Conference, when it comes to the overall landscape, do I see them taking down Boston? No. I want to be unbiased as possible as a Celtics fan, but as I see it, I don't think they have enough to take down Boston. Just it's really on Boston having such great, talented players, along with having the better coaching in Joe Mazzulla too. Although Kenny Atkinson deserves a lot of credit for coaching this team this season. I think he's the runaway favorite to win Coach of the Year. He should be the Coach of the Year this season. Despite getting DeAndre Hunter, I just don't see them potentially taking down Boston in a 7 game series if they do meet up against each other. But when you're in contention for a chip, you have to make a win now move, especially when you're um the hunters trying to take down uh the hunted in the Celtics, the reigning champions. So once again, brilliant move by Cleveland to get Hunter relatively for basically nothing. I'm not gonna lie. Massive upgrade in the wing position. Moving on, we are going back to the Western Conference and we are going to talk about the Spurs. I mentioned this before in the last episode, but them not giving up any young players in their young core, especially Stephon Castle too as well, and not giving up any first round picks to get De'Aaron Fox, who will likely sign a long term extension with San Antonio. Again, one of the best shot makers on perimeter in the entire league, a star point guard heading to his prime to pair alongside Victor Wembanyama. That was a home run move, and we're already seeing the instant impact from De'Aaron Fox, especially in the clutch. Um, Tonight against the Charlotte Hornets, what a game that was! Almost hit the game-winning shot. The ball still in his hands. Um, After the clock hit zero against the Hornets, but when you talk about his impact in that game and his impact versus the Hawks in his debut on ESPN, he is ready for prime time. He is again one of the most clutch players in the entire league. So for San Antonio to get a very good playmaker, a very good shot taker, shot maker as well, a star point guard who's committed to the team long term, phenomenal move. And for the Spurs, it just puts them one step closer towards being very serious contenders, despite Wemby being so young in his career. Okay, last team for my winners. I'm going to talk about the Miami Heat. And let me just start by saying this: the Jimmy era, Jimmy Butler being in Miami, that whole era, the whole drama, the whole whatever going on is finally over. You do not have to have that cloud hanging over the organization's heads no longer. It is done. You've wiped the slate clean, but it is done. And in return, you get a guy, Andrew Wiggins, who is one of the best 3-and-D wings in the entire league. Again, a very good defender, can create a little bit for himself, can attack the rim, can shoot at a very solid level as well, while also being a solid ball handler. Uh, can You can put him as a secondary player in actions with dribble handoffs to alongside Bam Adebayo for you to get a very dependable starter for Jimmy. Very good move. Very good move. And with the other moves they made, they got Kyle Anderson, another wing from Golden State. He improves their wing depth. Davion Mitchell from the Raptors as well too. Miami needs guards badly. They really need guards in a rotation. Besides Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier, those are the only two guards within the rotation that get significant PT. I know they've played Alec Burks here here and there throughout the season, but Rozier and Hero are really the two main guards in the rotation. And so for them to get Davion Mitchell, a young guard who can defend his ass off, again, young too, cheap player, I thought that was very important. And for Davion Mitchell, he fits the Heat culture. I know that's very generic to say when talking about Miami, but he really fits like the prototypical Heat player, especially at the guard position. He's gonna fire his ass out every night. Team player as well too, hungry and just a sound basketball player for this rotation. Yeah, just in general for the circumstances, I thought they did a very solid job for what was given to them. Especially when Miami didn't have to give up any of their young pieces like a Jaime Hawkins Jr., like a Khalil Ware, who has been very good in his rookie season. Like a Nikola Jovic. None of those players left. They're all staying, and as well too, they gained a first round pick, I believe, from the Warriors, and potentially when it comes down to the end of the year, that's gonna be a mid first round pick. And for all the crap Pat Riley has gotten over the past few years, which I completely agree with, when it comes to drafting, they have hit it out of the park without very high draft capital. You look at Tyler Hero, Bam, Jovic, Hawkins Jr., Ware, all those guys relatively were in that mid even to late first round area. And so for them to get another first round, which they can potentially add another important player to the rotation, was very vital. So salute to the Miami Heat for getting business done in this year's trade deadline. Now we move on to the losers of the trade deadline, and I have to start off with the biggest losers by far, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. They're gonna be a lot better defensively with Anthony Davis and Max Christie too. I understand that. Luka Doncic being gone, face of the franchise gone, the the Golden Boy post Dirk gone as well too. I I just can't ignore that. Nobody can ignore that. The media sources from Dallas, the Mavs organization, stories coming out about Luka's weight conditioning, all that stuff. To me, I don't care, man. You don't give up a guy like Luka Doncic for basically free. I'm just sorry. You just cannot do that. It is completely unacceptable from Nico Harrison. It's complete malpractice, and the Mavs are still going to be a good team this season, potentially next season. But one, do I see them being serious contenders? I've said this in the last episode, but no. And two, when it comes down to a long term, your main stars on the roster in Kyrie and Anthony Davis, they're getting up there in age. And for Dallas moving forward long term, you don't have that young superstar talent in Doncic no more to lead you to a much easier retooling phase moving further down the line. So that has to sting. That really has to sting. Excuse me. And also giving up Quentin Grimes too for Caleb Martin, who's older and a much worse defender. I did not like that at all. I like Quentin Grimes a lot. He's one of my favorite 3-and-D wings in the entire league. Can shoot the ball at a high level as well too. Really fits into what the Mavs want to do even without Luka. So I didn't really get the move from Nico Harrison once again. So yeah, sorry Mavs fans. Really, really sorry. Moving on to the next team I got. I'm going to stick with the West, and that is the Golden State Warriors. I know they got Jimmy Butler, which on paper having a potential all-star on your team alongside Steph seems like a good thing despite his age. But as I look at the Warriors roster more and more, I just don't like the fit. It does not fit at all. And let me start off with the potential pairing of Jimmy and Draymond in the starting lineup. That's just disgusting to me. The lack of spacing as well, the lack of pressure offensively too. You look at the current Warriors starting lineup potentially, even the whole roster too. But I'll just go with the starting lineup: Steph, Buddy Hield, Jimmy, Draymond at the four, and Quentin Post, the rookie, at center too. Not a lot of guys that can pressure the rim. Not a lot of guys that can get you easy buckets, especially at the rim too. A lot of clean open looks. It's very puzzling to see how they'll move for the remainder of the season. With that being said, and once again, you add Jimmy and take away Andrew Wiggins, you got a lot older, a lot less athletic for a team that is lacking in athleticism, which they have been over the past couple seasons now. And for Jimmy, I understand Jimmy's gonna be Jimmy. He's still a good player in this league, but he's still in his mid 30s, coming off nagging injuries, has a little bit of a nagging injury history. So you add all that together, along with the bench being very, very up and down too. Not a lot of guys that can get their own shot off. I'm just not feeling that confident in Golden State moving forward. And then you add the fact that Jimmy is going to make around 62 million over the next 2 seasons. I just don't like it. I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan. And it's just reeks of desperation from Golden State that they made this move. With them having missed on multiple all-star caliber targets over the past few years, whether it was Zach Levine, even Kevin Durant. They offered Kevin Durant in the trade too. He just didn't want to go there. I wonder why. I wonder why KD didn't want to go to the back to the Warriors again. I really want to know why. Probably because of that one dude with the podcast, but I digress from that. But yeah, man, once again, very desperate move, and we'll see how Golden State can adjust with Jimmy being on the team. Me personally, this doesn't move the needle at all. I don't see Golden State being really a contender with Jimmy Butler, and uh, even in the playing wise, I could see them still dropping out of the plan, depending on the progression of the Spurs with the year and Fox. Even the rise of the Trailblazers too. The Trailblazers are not an easy out, not anymore. They're what 11 of 12 in their last. No, I'm sorry, 11-1 in their last 12 games. 11-1 for the Portland Trailblazers. Bro, we like everybody thought they were gonna get what 20, 25 wins again this season, maybe even 30 if they were lucky, and they're looking like they have a decent shot. Well, it's not a huge shot, but they have a decent chance of making the plan if they keep this up. Got a lot of exciting players, so we'll see how Chauncey Billups and the rest of that Trailblazers young core progress throughout the remainder of the season. But I just want to say that I'm very excited about the Blazers' future. They're a very exciting team to watch, very sound defensive team, and again, I just want to get that out the way. But let's go to the next two teams I have, and they're both in the East, by the way. Let's start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. Uh, Milwaukee, Kyle Kuzma and Kelvin Porter. Excuse me, Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. at the deadline. Two of the worst players throughout the entire league this season. With Kyle Kuzma, you have a cheaper contract compared to Chris Middleton in the trade, which I understand financially, roster building in the future down the line, that was a relatively fair move. But playing wise, I understand Chris Middleton has had a ton of nagging injuries throughout these past few seasons. He's not the same player like he was what the year they won the chip. Not at all. His legs are shot, unfortunately. But a banged up Chris Middleton is much, much better than Kyle Kuzma. Again, I have to say it. Kyle Kuzma is easily one of the worst players in the entire league right now. Easily. And when you talk about Kuzma potentially fitting on this Bucks team, a non-shooter, he's been very poor from the field, especially from three, shooting 26% from three this year. Ball dominant player as well too. When it comes to the 3 and 4 spot, Kuzma really can't play the three. The four is his main spot, and Milwaukee still has Bobby Portis at the four, and we know for damn sure Bobby Portis can't play the three. So how are you going to adjust those two guys' minutes within the rotation? That's going to be very hard for Doc Rivers to do. And then you move on to Kevin Porter Jr. I see him as a non-factor too. Another very ball dominant, again inefficient player. Kevin Porter Jr. has never been a winning basketball player at all. Even with the Rockets too, you put up these great numbers on some nights, but again, you look at the tape. He's not only impacting the team on the floor like he should be as a ball dominant guard. So for Milwaukee, did he do become more athletic with Kuzma to replace Middleton? But when it comes down to them being contenders, they're not going to do anything for this Milwaukee team, and it really hurts for Milwaukee in that Kuzma deal that they gave up AJ Johnson, their first round pick they drafted this year. They they knew that AJ Johnson was a prospect coming into the league. He was probably the most raw prospect from the draft class out of the first round. And one, they drafted him, and two, obviously he didn't get that much playing time this year because he's super raw. And ultimately, they trade away their first round pick when again they drafted a project player on a win now team, and they don't have really enough time for him to develop to impact the roster. So I didn't really get that move at all. And for Milwaukee, it has just been a snowball effect of bad move after bad move after bad move, especially when it comes to them drafting players like Beauchamp too, Marjon Beauchamp. Again, another project player. Really, he never really got the chance to be as impactful as he could have been throughout his time in Milwaukee, and they ultimately traded him away too. You look down at the Bucks' decisions, their draft picks over the last decade. It's been relatively horrible. Like, what good picks have they made in that time span? I know they hit big with Giannis and Chris Middleton, two their two best players on championship winning team back in 2021. But other than that, really Dante DiVincenzo, which ultimately during that championship season they trade him away. So it's very sad to see the Bucks front office with a generational talent in Giannis Antetokounmpo just consistently shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to drafting. It's not good. It just puts you behind the eight ball when it comes to building a cohesive championship winning roster. So it's just very upsetting to see the Bucks make these type of poor decisions. It really is. And for Giannis and how this team is playing out, I he can only do so much, and I would not be surprised if he requested a trade within the next year or two with how this team's shaping up. Barely any young prospects on the team, an aging roster, limited athleticism, especially outside Giannis himself. It's it doesn't look like a contending team at all. A team that can seriously challenge for an NBA title anytime soon. It's really sad. It really is. All right, last team on this list for my losers, I had to talk about the Toronto Raptors. And on paper, the move to get Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans was a very exciting deal. Very, very exciting deal. You get a Fringe All Star NBI to pair alongside a young core in Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. But for Masai Ujiri, the GM, I, I just don't understand this move at all. For Brandon Ingram, correct. This is last year. He's on an expiring deal. They need to re-sign him long term. And within the Raptors, he already paid Quickly a ton of money. Scotty Barnes already got his money. RJ Barrett already got his money. So you bring in Brandon Ingram, which one you have to pay him long term too, right? Because you don't want to let go um a talented player like Ingram for the free, correct? And when it comes down to the on the core play, a starting lineup of Quickly, RJ Barrett, B at the three, Scotty at the four, and Jakob at the five. It does not mesh well with me, especially those first four names I mentioned. A lot of ball dominant players who do not work well off ball. A lot of non effective shooters, 3-point shooters. It's a complete mess to me. It is an absolute complete mess. I know the Raptors they have a good amount of talent, right, on paper. But again, the cohesiveness is just not there. And for the capital they got to get Ingram and Pirtle at the five too as well for the team. It just doesn't make sense to me. You are not in the position to contend right now, especially with this roster. So what's the point of making this move to get BI? Especially when you have to pay him too. On a team where I'm gonna be completely honest, you spent a lot of money towards a mediocre product. Like, what's the ceiling of this Raptors team with the starting five? A play-in exit, a first round exit, maybe if they do make it up the play-in. It doesn't. It just doesn't make sense to me. You look at the landscape of the East right now. Will this Raptors team be better than Boston? Hell no. Will this Raptors team be better than the Cavs? Hell no. The Knicks, no. Even with the Bucks, Pacers, no. They have a much better fit on each team. You go down the line, like I don't think Miami is gonna be worse than Toronto. Heck, even teams like Orlando, Detroit too as well. So you're basically putting all this capital and money into a team that has relatively no shot at becoming serious contenders. Heck, even becoming a dark horse playoff team, a team that could maybe have a deep run, make the Eastern Conference Finals. You for Masai Ujiri, you have spent up most of your resources on pure mediocrity. Like again, I think Brandon Ingram's a good player. He's a French All Star at his peak, but the fit just it doesn't work. It's gonna be really convincing to for me to see this Raptors team working as they're currently constructed right now. I mean, it's just a weird fit. It's a very very weird fit. But we'll have to see though. We will have to see. All right, and yeah, that is it for me. If you guys are still here watching, thank you guys for showing support. Make sure to drop a like and comment down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to our other socials. IG and TikTok, both with the handle Adams from Debates. This is very fun to talk about. This is deadline in this video. Again, this is the most exciting trade deadline in my experience as a basketball fan. Probably the most exciting we're ever going to win this as basketball fans. And yeah, man, I'd love to see how the rest of the season plays out. Obviously, All Star Weekend is next week. I'll possibly drop a video if I have the time, hopefully, on my picks for awards this season at the All Star break. So it's gonna be very exciting down ahead. Also with the NFL, recapping the Super Bowl once that game's over. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to do a full recap on not recap, a full preview on the Super Bowl this year. So my apologies for that. But I'm excited for the game, and again, it's gonna be a very good one. But that's it for me. I hope you have a great day, night, whatever time you're watching this. And yeah, man, peace out. Love y'all.